And Sue came to us from another contact that we have, another speaker, and she wrote a book that I think is fascinating, and it's called The Visibility Factor. And right now, especially in job search, well, and even if you're not in job search, just as a leader, the visibility part of it is probably the hardest to attain and the most important, especially from a job search perspective. But to even maintain your position as a leader, you want to be visible. And so Sue's going to take us through all that. Sue spent her career, much of it at Kraft, and then she went into academia and wrote a book, and she's been a coach and just fabulous, fabulous person to guide us through this visibility factor discussion. And with that, Sue, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Great, thanks. Hi, everybody. Welcome. I'm excited to talk to you today. I want to give you two things to think about. First, have a notebook nearby you because you might want to take some notes. There will be a few minutes in different activities where you can take some notes for yourself. And then also have your phone nearby, which I know most speakers would tell you not to do. But I'm going to ask you to do that because we're going to do a little bit of an interactive moment, and you need your phone for that. So let me bring up the presentation here and share it with you guys. All right, can everybody see my screen? Everybody good? Okay, great. Thank you for letting me know. Okay, so we're going to talk about from hidden to hired, building visibility that opens doors. So thank you for the introduction, Christy. I wanted to just give a little bit more background so you understand some of the conversation we're going to have today and where it started for me. I was at Kraft Heinz, Kraft Inc., all the crafts throughout the years. Started in sales and distribution supply chain in Atlanta, and then back in Chicago, where our headquarters was in food service, and over half of my career in IT. In 2015, as part of the Heinz merger, I decided to leave the company and start my own business. So I really help high performing leaders communicate their value strategically and increase their influence at senior levels to get noticed. And as Christy was mentioning, visibility is so important, not only when you are in transition, but also when you already have a role and you're trying to get promoted and trying to become something of the next level, whatever that looks like for you. I have one book, which Christy talked about, The Visibility Factor, which came out in 2021. I think of that as helping people understand that you can work hard, but visibility is so important to achieve career success. It talks about an understanding of imposter syndrome, visibility, helps you create a visibility plan with hundreds of ideas. My latest book is called The Visibility or Your Journey to Visibility Workbook, which came out in October of 2025. And that is the next step. So that is helping you level up your communication in a more strategic way. It has dozens of frameworks in there, a lot of examples of client experiences. And the goal of that is to really help you learn how to be strategic with your communication. I also have a podcast called The Visibility Factor, which has over 220 episodes, and it talks a lot about the things that we're going to talk about today, as well as other pieces of visibility. So I want you to think about these three things as we talk about the conversation today: embracing your strengths and what makes you unique, focus on adding value and making an impact, and every interaction you have is an opportunity for visibility and influence. And I want to ground you in those three things because those are things that will really help you start to think about where you have opportunities, where you aren't taking advantage of some things that you could be taking advantage of as you're doing job search or in your role. So, I want to talk about external visibility a little bit more today than maybe I normally do because I think it's something that a lot of people don't talk about. And I have found with clients who are trying to either get internal visibility, but also want to leverage some external visibility, which can also help you internally, honestly. If you can leverage more external visibility, it can be really helpful for people to see you. So, in my mind, external visibility brings people to you, right? Because you are going to be attracting the people who recognize your thought leadership, are inspired by what you share, See your value and relate to your authenticity by how you talk about the things that you share. Because you don't want to be the best kept secret, right? I think all of everybody in the world has all of these gifts and things that they have to offer, but they don't necessarily talk about them. They might hide them because they think it's bragging. They might not want to share them with other people, but it's your responsibility to share your value, talk about the things that you care about. When people are looking for people to hire, they are looking at what you're posting, they're looking at what you're sharing, they're looking in conversations that you're having with other people. And so I want to help you think about ways that you can start to do this for yourself in a way that feels true to you, in a way that feels like it's authentic to your style. So grab your phone and scan this QR code, and I'd love to have you answer this question. What is the biggest visibility challenge for you in your career transition, or if you are in a role right now, what is it for you? And this will build out a word cloud for us to show what everyone's answers are. Lots of good ones coming up here. It's always interesting to see what other people's challenges might be with visibility and where you might also have those, but hadn't thought about them that way. So, a lot about getting noticed, standing out, finding ways to talk about your value, being seen as someone who's a valuable asset. Privacy is an interesting one. Can anybody quickly share what they mean by privacy?
Yeah, crowded spaces was mine. I'm Matt. Nice to meet you.
I'm Matt.
And it's just that I think that a lot of people encourage us to post on LinkedIn or go to these places and, articulate your value and your voice and kind of, have these sort of visible things out there. And with everyone being encouraged to go that way, it feels like suddenly, LinkedIn feeds will be saturated with people trying to get their voice out there and tell their stories and get that visibility. And your own sort of sense of personal visibility in there can get a little bit lost. Same thing with trying to, go find those networking connections and stand out from all the other job seekers. Just every way to kind of differentiate feels like it's getting saturated is my
Yeah.
personal. Yeah.
I mean, LinkedIn definitely is right now. They're calling it more interest media instead of social media because the way the algorithm is working now, they're pushing it towards people who have interest. So if I have an interest in leadership, I'm getting all the leadership people, in my feed. And so it's important to try to find ways to connect with people. I think, obviously getting connections and networking with people is one of the best ways to get a role right now. So the more we can do, and hopefully today's conversation helps you start to think about new ways that you can stand out differently than maybe you're doing today. I have some examples of some clients that I've done this with that has worked really well. And even in my own experience, I started when I left craft writing a blog every day for 18 months. I'm not advocating that anyone do that, but what I needed to do was stop being seen as an IT director and I needed to be seen as a leadership thought leader. I needed to be seen as a coach. I needed to start talking about visibility. And so for me, that was the way to do that through my vulnerability of stories and what I shared to help people start to recognize that they could do that too. And that's how I got my first clients. So to me, it's about leveraging what you have, and that's what I'm hoping. I'd be interested at the end of this today, Matt, to hear your perspective about how this might change the way that you think about your posting and the things that you're doing. Okay, so let's keep going. So we're going to talk about three things today: clearly communicating your value, sharing your perspective with confidence, and showing up where it matters. So clearly communicate your value. Know the value you provide and show interviewers or people that you're networking with, or even people in your company if you are in a company, what your value is. And I find that many people struggle with this, and we saw that in the little poll we just did there. But if we can help you get to a place where you can talk about the things that you're really good at and how you make an impact and the value that you provide, what does that do? It demonstrates that you know yourself, you have confidence, and you trust who you are. And I think for a long time I struggled with self-trust. I looked around at other people and thought they knew more. I don't have IT degrees, so working in IT for a long time, you kind of get a little bit of imposter syndrome, or at least I did. And so I had to recognize that I brought a lot of other things to the role that I had that they didn't have. And when you start to think about it that way, it helps you, look at things a bit differently and not feel like you have to be like everybody else. You can stand out in the things that you have to offer. And I want to talk to you about ways that you can do that today. And this is something my coach told me, which was hard to hear at the time when I was going through some of my own challenges with visibility and not being visible enough. Hence, all the things that I now do and help with people with is she said to me, if you don't value yourself, Sue, and what you have to offer, why should anybody else value you? Hard to hear, but important. And it helped me really recognize that I wasn't valuing myself. I wasn't advocating for myself or my team, and I wasn't promoting the things that we were doing in the best way because to me it felt like bragging. So it wasn't hard, it wasn't easy to hear, but definitely necessary at the time. So I want to talk for a few minutes about personal branding. Now, on the left here, this is the definition from Harvard Business School, Jill Avery and Rachel Greenwald. And it's, their definition of what you might think a personal brand is. And I think of this as when people already know you. They look at how you show up, your associations, beliefs, feelings, attitudes, and expectations. And that's what people who know you collectively think about you. But what we may be talking about here today in many cases is people who don't know you. How can we help them start to get a sense of who you are even before they've met you? And I think of this as the intentional, strategic practice of defining and expressing your value to others. And that's in many different ways. You want to be consistent with it, but you want to be able to do it in different ways so they can hear it. So I'd love you to think about ways for you to tell your story, because people want to connect with people who are showing up as themselves, people who are genuine, people who didn't write something through AI, people who are really a human being, because a human being having a conversation with another human being comes through as much more authentic and genuine. And what personal branding does is it helps you show what makes you tick, what makes you you, what your strengths are, what your personality is, your opinions, your style, your work, your skills. All of those things come through when you're having a conversation with someone else and telling your story. But what is important is to leverage what makes you unique and how you can stand out because of that. So I want to share a couple personal brand statements. I don't know if anyone's ever done something like this before, but I found it to be helpful because it allows you in about 2 to 3 sentences to share who you are, what makes you you, what you specialize in, and putting it out in a way that people can see it easily and understand who you are. So I'm going to give you a couple of, I'll say, more famous people. But Sarah Blakely, who founded Spanx, who no longer owns the company, she sold it for, I don't know, a couple $1 billion, I believe. But when she started, she was selling fax machines door to door. And she had an issue that she was trying to solve. She didn't know how to do it. She had to figure it out. But she started with $5,000 in savings, never took outside investments from anyone, but followed her instincts and took a unique approach to her own business and creating that. And, it turned out to be an amazing business. And she's very savvy in social media. You've probably seen her out there doing that. But what does that say about her? Right? She is a person who trusts herself. She found a way to innovate, to find partnerships, to build relationships, to make this happen. And that is what helped her get there. She never gave up on herself. She used to put packages together in her apartment to send out to people. She took a chance on herself, Richard Branson, you probably have heard of all the different things he has to offer, but he calls himself a tie-loathing adventurer, philanthropist, and troublemaker who believes in turning ideas into reality, otherwise known as Dr. Yes. So he's open to new ideas. He's open to innovations. He's open to maybe investing in entrepreneurial things that others might not consider. So I gave you these two examples, not for you to copy, but for you to just open your mind up to what you would put in your personal brand statement for yourself in 2 to 3 sentences that really tells a story about you, who you are, what you care about, what's important for them to know, and maybe what's making you more unique than other people. And this is something you can put in your LinkedIn, something you can put, in conversations with people. You might even be able to use it in something I'm going to share with you in a little while. So let's talk about what story you're telling. I want to talk about language. The workbook was really built on a lot of recognition that the language that we use or don't use tells a story about us. And so I started to think about how can I help people be more strategic with the language that they're using and give them some frameworks and some ways to use templates that help them get there. So the language we use tells a lot about how we're seeing the world and how we're holding the pen in our story. What story are we telling about ourselves? And when we have that story in our head, what is it that we're sharing with others? Because that is what the story is that they know about us then. Because words shape how people experience you and how you experience yourself. If you can change your language, you can change your perception. So if you are being someone who is more devaluing of yourself and you might say, I think this is probably a good idea, but I'm not really sure. I haven't really done it before, versus I'm excited about this idea. I can really see how it can make a difference for you. You can tell quite a difference there between someone who's devaluing versus someone who has confidence in what they're sharing. So I ask you to start to think about and listen to yourself when you're talking with other people. And what is it that you're sharing? And are you being intentional and strategic? Because changing your language is a first step through a gateway of transformation. It's about reclaiming the story you tell about who you are. So you might be telling a story and you've told it for years and it really has worked. But if you're trying to become someone else, trying to be someone who's seen as bolder, more influential, more strategic, your language is a first step to start to change how people see that about you. And so it takes a little bit of time to work on that, but it is an amazing gift to give to yourself, depending on what you want to achieve and what your outcome is. So your words define your reality. Your thoughts, beliefs, and assumptions create your words and actions. It is your reality. So everything I think about, like your brain is a little file cabinet, right? It's got all of this information in it. And when you run into someone or when you try something and do something, it's going and finding that file and it's pulling it out and it's saying, okay, well, this is what I know about this thing. But that might be a really old file. It might be corrupt. It might be something that is no longer necessary, no longer real. So you have to always kind of look at my beliefs, my assumptions, my thoughts, and say, are they skeptical and devaluing? Are they negative? Or are they positive? Are they more inspiring and helping me get there? Because whatever your thoughts and beliefs and assumptions are, affect your language, affect your actions and your behaviors. So pay attention to the language that you use about yourself, your work, your experiences. If you're in an interview, how are you talking about the experiences that you've had in a way that people can hear it and value it? What you say is your reality. It's either positive or negative, right? And where do you want your perception to be? And you have the ability to influence that by what you say. And then what message are you sending to others through your words? Just like the example I gave you there, right? I gave the first example of someone who's not as confident, someone who isn't really sure, insecure, not trusting themselves, versus the second version was much more confident. So think about what outcome you want. What is the outcome you're trying to drive towards? And can your language help you get there? So I want you to take a minute, use your notebook here. I want you to just take 1 minute, and I would love you to think about a networking conversation or an interview you had with someone. And I want you to think about the words that you used in that conversation. What did they say about you, about your job, your work, your coworkers, your former manager? What is it that you shared in that conversation? And as you write those down, think about whether that's the story you really want to have people know about you. So I'll give you 1 minute and let's see what we can come up with there. Okay, I hope that has given you some ideas of some things that you shared. And I want you to look at that list now and say, do I need to reframe anything in a different way? Do I need it to be more strategic, more intentional? Do I need it to represent this personal brand that I'm trying to build and share with other people about how I deliver value and impact? Or does it show what you really want it to be and you're fine with it and you don't need to make any changes? But does it show for the role that you're interviewing for what you can do? Do you need to make some changes there? So I want you to look at it with kind of an objective eye, right? It's really a little subjective exercise in some ways, right? But can you look at it with a more objective eye and say, is it really meeting the needs of who I want to be and how I want to show up? And sometimes I'll have people say to me, like, well, I want to go into this interviewing being this person, being bolder, being more influential, being more strategic. I said, okay, well, then think about what language you're going to use to demonstrate that in that conversation. And if you can go in with that mindset of this is how I want to be, it changes how you answer the questions. It helps you drive the conversation to a place you want them to see about the value that you bring. So hopefully this gives you some ways to start to think about your own language and where you might have an opportunity to shift it. So I'm not going to walk through all of these, but I wanted to give you some examples of questions that you might want to explore here. So is your language matching the level of the role? Does it demonstrate confidence, credibility, authenticity? Are you sharing the right examples for what the role needs to do, the competencies that you have, the value and impact that you're making? And please don't assume that everybody knows the acronyms that exist out there in the world. I remember we used to have so many acronyms, it was crazy. But make sure that you're not using those things. And then the other side of the coin is what are your interviewers thinking? When you're answering questions, these are the questions they're asking themselves. Is this person prepared? Are they strategic and influential? Can they develop the next level of leaders? Can they help our company grow? Can they operate at the level of the role that we're offering them? How would they be in a crisis? Will they fit in our culture? Are they sharing stories and examples that actually show me what they can do? And what could they bring to our company that would have a big impact for us? So, a couple of friends of mine wrote a book called Interview Speak. It's a really great book. I interviewed them on the podcast, and it was a really great conversation because it really showed what interviewers are thinking about. So, it's written from the interviewer's perspective, and it's got tons and tons of questions and things that you should do and shouldn't do. So, it might be a great book for you to consider. I just wanted to share that resource if it's helpful. So, the bottom line is, are you saying what you need to be saying to make it easy for a recruiter to understand your value and position you for roles? Are you using the right words to help companies know the value that you bring and that you're the right choice? And are you able to explain the type of roles you're looking for to let other people help you with connections or recommend you? It all comes down to really the clarity that you have for yourself and being able to share that with other people so that they can help you, right? Because this is, you can feel the weight of sometimes when you talk to people who are looking for a role, it's a full-time job all by itself. And so, whatever things you can leverage, whether that's people in your life, conversations that you're having, the way that you're communicating to help you get there, it's a much faster approach, right? Okay, so now we're going to move into how you share your perspective with confidence. So I believe every person brings a unique set of experiences, ideas, strengths, values, skills, and capabilities to their work. So let's talk about how to embrace what makes you unique. Who are you and what have you done? Now, those seem like really big, very general, broad questions, but I want to help you find ways to narrow that down a little bit. What are you known for? If in your previous role or in the role you're in now, someone came up to you and said, "What are the three things you're known for?" Could you answer that question? A lot of people cannot. They'll start to talk about a lot of things that they've done, but they won't talk about the things that they're really known for in a very succinct manner. That is something you need to be able to do. You know more than you think, so share your knowledge, ask challenging questions. If you're in a role today, don't be afraid to be the one who asks the question that's more challenging because that helps you stand out. Everybody else is sometimes afraid to do that, depending on the level that they are and if they've had experience doing that. But I think in many ways, challenging questions can help you stand out. What experiences have you had that set you apart from other people? And if you don't know some of these answers, talk to other people around you. They can share feedback about who you are, how you show up, what they think your personal brand is, what they think your perception is. And they might be able to highlight some blind spots that you couldn't see for yourself. So, we're going to go through an exercise here in a second on what makes you unique, but I want you to just start to think about this more broadly right now. So, everybody in this room here with us today virtually has similarities, right? We've all done different things, we've all had different roles. We may have grown up in different places or gone to different schools, but I want you to start to think about what is it about you that's unique because there is something about you that's unique. Everybody has unique qualities. They may not think about themselves that way, but they have them. So, again, grab your notebook and I want you to make a list of what you have to offer that makes you unique. I'm going to give you some examples here. You maybe have done a turnaround in your company, developing teams, global experiences, innovations you've come up with, your strengths, industry knowledge, acquisitions, divestitures, some measurable results, leading through change, multiple industry experiences. What is it that you have that makes you unique compared to anybody else that you would encounter? So I'm going to let you have 1 minute to start to jot down some ideas. And if you feel comfortable, you can throw some of those things in the chat. It might help other people see different things that they didn't think about for themselves. So it might be a good idea generator for each other to share the unique qualities that you have about yourself, but others may have them in some way, shape, or form too. Okay. So I know I'm not giving you a ton of time there, but sometimes when I give more time, it takes up all that time. So if I push you to do it in 1 minute, it forces you to get to a place of thinking about it really quickly and not overthinking it. So I hope this has given you some ways to start to think about your own unique qualities. And then let's think about how you can leverage those unique things in networking conversations, interviews that you're having with potential companies to help set yourself apart from other people and stand out. So, what you say and do matters. Show your value and confidence. So, think about stories that highlight your strengths and accomplishments in a conversational manner. Share details and what makes you unique so that people remember you. I think we've all heard about the elevator speech, right? A 30-second speech that really talks about who we are and find ways to work in some of these unique qualities or things that will make someone remember you. And then find ways to work in a win that you've accomplished recently or that you've done throughout your career that you're known for, that people really think about you when they think about that thing, whatever that might be. And then what can you say? So be intentional with what you share about yourself, a team member, or a visibility partner. And I want to introduce the visibility partner to you for just a moment because it might be helpful with this group specifically. Visibility partnership is what I talk about in the visibility factor, which is helping each other really get visibility and support, that effort of trying to get in front of more people. So I'm kind of a fan of, rising tide lifts all boats. And how can you help each other do that? So if as we go through this, you start to think about ways to post on social media or ways that you can make introductions, which I think you're already doing some of that, but maybe there's an opportunity to do even more of that and help each other get in front of more people and have more conversations. But also support each other on social media. It is noisy out there, right? We just talked about that. How can you help each other? So I have a group of people that we help each other get in front of more people. We help each other get noticed a little bit more. We share referrals with each other. There's ways to do this that helps you stand out. So think about example of how you influenced an outcome, a way that you drove a key decision, an accomplishment, and what you want people to hear about. Results or accomplishments of a team member. So you might have had a big team and have done some great things. But here's a little formula to think about. I want you to think about the results that you got, the role that you played in it, and why it matters, which demonstrates your value and impact. So I'm going to give you a semi-quick example here, some from my IT days. So results. On my resume, it would probably say, right, that I implemented a global master data program as the delivery leader and also, used a tool called SAP Master Data Management. Okay, fine. Yes, I did that, but that's not really telling a whole lot about the value and impact I made, right? It just says I did something, check. So, what I might add to that is, yes, we did that, but what's really interesting about that is how quickly we did it. We did it within 6 months. It was a brand new tool to SAP, who never really used it with a big company before. We were the first. We got an opportunity to influence how that tool was used and what it was able to do later for other customers. We implemented 4 domains of data that was at the time just North America, but was setting it up for a global implementation later. And because of that, we were able to meet timelines for our overall SAP implementation, and we won the Gartner MDM award that year. My team was the people who was a group of people who came together who really believed that we could do the impossible. And when you believe you can do the impossible, you make it happen. Okay, so that's a bigger story, right? But it tells a lot about me as a leader and making that happen. My team, it tells about working with partners. It tells about doing things that feel crazy that no one believes you can do. And it shows how we partnered with our vendors to make that happen. It's a much stronger story, right, that you can share. So I give you that example because I think it's something that we tend to just do the first part. Yes, I did this, but we don't talk about what our role was in it, that we influenced, that we made it happen, that we motivated and inspired people, and that we actually drove business change because of it. So think about how you might tell stories a bit differently that allow people to hear it from you. Okay, we're on the last pillar. Show up where it matters. And what I mean about this is, are you clear in what you're talking about? Are you having enough clarity about the roles that you want, why you want them, how you would be able to impact that role if you got it? Is your brand reflected everywhere to visible employers, to potential employers, to people that you want to network with? This is LinkedIn. This is your resume. This is networking conversations. And are you putting your message and thought leadership out in a bigger way? And I'll give you some ideas of how to do that coming up here shortly. So, if you had 15 minutes, what would you do with it? I want you to think about ways that you can take some imperfect action. Don't overthink it. Don't be scared. Don't think I have to say the perfect thing, because what we're trying to do is to just get your voice out there, to get your authentic voice out there in a bigger way. So these are just some ideas. You can look through the list here and see if any of them might be interesting for you. But it's about adding value, serving the people that you already know, engaging with people that maybe you haven't talked to in a bit, setting up time with people to help them with a problem that they might be having, sharing your own personal and helpful content, sharing your lessons learned, building connections with other people that you might find interesting, doing informational interviews, for example, I think are a great way to make that happen. setting up a call with someone who's an old friend that you haven't talked to in a while because they might know somebody that they could introduce you to. And then just finding ways to get interested in what other people are doing. Talk about your own things that you're doing in a way that maybe no one's heard from you before. I think we tend to dismiss and devalue the things that we've done because they came easy for us. They were something that we've already done and experienced, and so it feels like no big deal. But this is a big deal. So, preparing to network, how are you going to demonstrate your brand? What messages do you want to share with them? What might you ask of them? How can they connect you to other people, give you advice, maybe share your resume? How can you talk confidently about what you want in a way that's easy for them to help you? Look at your energy. Are you going in like, "Ah, this job search thing is just painful. Oh my God. I want to be done. I just want to be done." Okay, well, that's not bringing the best energy. And it also translates into how people see you, right? So pay attention to your language, your energy. Are you excited for the next step? And leverage your networking brief. So I'm going to share this with you guys. I don't know if you have something like this already. If you do, don't worry. It's not necessary to use it. I just thought it might be helpful. So this is a document. This is not your resume, right? This is a one pager that you can share with people that helps them help you. So think about if you're networking, you can send it as a pre-read. If you're building connections with new people, it helps them get to know you. It allows them to get to know some key insights about you before you meet with them. It might provide some information for a person that you're doing an informational interview with or networking with. And I think of it as a great way for your neighbor, the people in your life to share this with other people because this is the simpler version, right? It's not your resume, it's not all the details, but it allows you to give something to someone else who can help you. So let me just walk you through this really quickly here. So at this very top part where it says Senior Technology Executive and Business Partner, this is what you do, right? At a high level, it's a super summary level version of you. And this Senior Technology Executive and Business Partners, whatever you want to call it, doesn't have to be your title. What kind of goal, what kind of roles are you looking for? What kind of recent experience have you had? What do you like to do? What are company challenges that really excite you if you get to do them? Target companies and industries. If you know that, fill that in. It allows people to help you. This box over here that creates value by is how you get things done. So this how part, start with a really strong verb. You need it to show action and you need it to be able to demonstrate what you're trying to accomplish in a company or in a role so that they can connect the dots and see if it makes sense for them if they're an employer or a referral partner that they know of someone who needs to do that. And then this last box, you can put professional skills, certifications, any of the things in here that you might want to add to it. I've also had people put some more personal things in here. You can make it your own. I'm going to give it to you as a Word document. Make it your own. Find a way to use it that makes sense for you. And of course, put your information up here at the top that will help people connect with you. So I want you to also think about how are you showing up in social media on LinkedIn. LinkedIn is basically the new resume. So if you're not using LinkedIn to your advantage, I know it's out there, it's noisy, I know it's a little crazy, but it is still the way that a lot of people go and look at you first. They will go and look at your LinkedIn and see what it says. So when they're looking at it, these are the questions they're asking themselves. Is this someone that seems dependable? Would they be willing to work with me? Are they talking about industry issues? Can they add value and help my business grow? Can I trust them? What do they talk about online? What do they talk about? Case studies, social proof of what they say. Do they really do that? Those are things that someone's automatically looking for credibility about you and if they can trust you. So, are you building consistent know, like, and trust through your words and actions, online and in person? It's important to do both. So, when people meet me, one of the things that I love to hear is that you are exactly the same person as you are in your podcast, as you are online in videos, as you are when you present. You're the same person. And I want that to be because authenticity is important to me. So, whatever is important to you, make sure you're demonstrating that to other people on a consistent basis across everything that you're doing. So, here's some tips to be more visible and connect online. So, thought leadership is important. Share your stories. You all have amazing stories about things that you've done and things that you want to do and things that you've learned. Share those because you never know who it might help. Create content using your own words. I know AI is a real opportunity to leverage it, and maybe there's ways to leverage it, right? But start with your own words because you're the person who lived it. You need to talk about it in your own way. And then choose what channels you want to focus on and be consistent, right? There's a million of them out there right now, but LinkedIn for a job search is probably the best place to be, but that doesn't mean it's the only place to be. Build trust. If you can create videos, they get to see you, they get to hear you talk about things. Use your picture when you post on social media. Make sure your picture is on your LinkedIn. Make sure that you post something about you and let them get to know you. They need to see you. Share your clients' stories if you have clients. Share your customer stories if you have customers. Share your team stories. Whatever insert the blank there is, make sure that you're talking about them and how you made a difference there. Ensure your introductions are consistent and memorable. So that's that 30-second pitch. Create a visibility partnership with someone else to support you, like I talked about earlier. And then talk about what you're doing. Are you on podcasts? Are you writing things? Are you attending events? Even personal experiences. If you travel, if you connect with someone else. Hey, I was so excited to connect with John today. I had the best conversation with him. And here's what we talked about. Here's some of the things that I realized in that conversation for me. Is that true for you? It can be that simple. Again, don't overthink this. Just do what you can do to help other people. So I'm giving you a visibility plan that you can create for yourself. So this is, think of this as the list of things that you can put in each of these boxes. I'm giving you a blank one that you can also do for yourself. But I want you to start to think of topics that you want to share each week on social or maybe in networking conversations. Again, don't overthink it. Take imperfect action. Those are my two favorite words because as a former perfectionist, I lived that place of trying to make everything perfect, which takes longer, doesn't allow you to move forward. Imperfect action allows you to experiment, try things. As new ideas come up, you can add to the list and then assess, are you doing things that are working, or if they're not working, try other things. But this is a way for you to update. So this first part up here is what is the 4 things I'm going to share this week? 3 things, whatever it is for you. So you might put in here based on our conversation today, you might now know more things that make you unique. Maybe you start to intersperse those into a post or into a conversation with someone else, or talk about competencies, or talk about a testimonial you got from someone about you, or what you learned in your career. I think lessons learned are a great way to start because you all have them. Everybody has them. So here's that little formula again that I walked through with my example from the IT world. These are types of posts you can do on social media. So there's different things in here that you can think about. You can do stories and case studies. These are different ideas about doing that. I put here my experiences because think about a recruiter. And if you talk, like I'll just use my example again. If I talked about my experience with doing what I did with SAP MDM and how I did that and all of the things that had to happen to make that magic happen in 6 months, right? That could be something if I was going for an IT role that someone might see and think, wow, she might be a great person to bring in for a program management role. What we're trying to do is attract people to you. So you have to talk about the things that you want to be doing, vulnerable stories, the things that you did to overcome a challenge, how you built a team from scratch, how you built a new organization that didn't exist before. How can you talk about what you want to happen through a post, through a conversation with someone else? If you do podcasts and you want to be a guest, it's a great way to do it that way too. But think about the ways that you can start to talk about the work that you've done in a way that will attract someone else who wants to talk to you more about it. What are the things that set me apart? So that's that whole unique list. I just gave you some examples here that we talked about. Books are a great way to talk about things too. If you are a reader or a podcast listener, share a podcast with someone in a post and talk about the 3 things that really had an impact on you that resonated with you because people are always looking for a new recommendation. If you read a book, if you read an article, you can do the same thing there. And then networking conversations in person or remote. Think about who you're going to reach out to. Think about things that you might share with them that might be helpful to them. What questions do you need to ask them? What recommendations do you want to have them give you? Ask for informational interviews if they know somebody that they can introduce you to that can help you get in front of more people. So think of this as just your list of ideas. And then you'll have a blank one that you can create for yourself each week or each month or however often you want to use it for posting. And then these are just QR codes that you can learn more about my books. The first two, that takes you to my website, but a page for each of the books. And then you can also go subscribe to the Visibility Factor podcast. I would love it if you did. And then I'd love to connect with any of you on LinkedIn. I get a lot of people coming at me with a lot of, hey, do you know anybody who? So I try to be a bridge and a connector for people who are looking for roles with people who have roles. I've done it successfully in many cases. Honestly, it's been kind of interesting where someone asked me if I know someone, and then I just have happened to have that conversation 2 weeks ago. So wherever possible, I'm happy to be a bridge to connect with people to allow them to get the roles that they want and really achieve, kind of the career that they're looking for. So that's the end. I'm open to
All
answering any
right.
questions that you guys have about any of this, but I'll leave
Well,
this up for right now.
yeah, we have some questions. Well, one in particular, and I love this question. How can you get a clear understanding of whether your language matches the level of the role?
So I'll give you an example. I think that's the easiest way to talk about it. So when I mock interview someone, they'll come to me and say, hey, I'm going for this VP role. Okay, but their answers are coming at me and I can hear the answers almost like they were a manager. So if they're not talking about things in a more strategic way, if they're not talking about how they influenced something, if they're not talking about how they leveraged and motivated and inspired their team to do it, that's what I would expect a VP to do, right? So what would a VP do? And are they using the language to demonstrate that? If the answer is no, then they have to elevate their language to demonstrate that. So sometimes what I'll have them do is record their answers, listen to it themselves first, and say, does this sound like a VP that you know? And if the answer is no, then they have to elevate their language. And then they'll come back and we'll do it again. So it's kind of, you just have to kind of go through this process of listening to yourself or have someone else listen to you. And then be able to be direct about the feedback. Like, this isn't the level of what they're looking for. They need to hear a different level of language from you. Does that make sense? I hope that answers that.
It sounds, I don't know who, the person who asked the question. I lost her name. Oh, Hope. Is it Hope? Yeah, that's what she said. What other questions do we have? There's a couple things that I really like. What you said. I like the thought about language, and also the recovering perfectionist, and because you're absolutely right. When we're expecting things to be perfect, we're not necessarily moving forward.
All right. Yep. Held me back for a long time and just didn't
Yeah.
realize it. I thought it was the right thing to do to be perfectionistic, and clearly I was wrong. Since it's
So
it's
what other
unattainable.
questions? What other questions do you have?
Hope, did that answer your question? If not, I'm happy
Oh,
to expand.
yeah. She said it did.
Oh,
Yes,
okay, good.
yes, it did.
What
Thank you.
had Okay, and what has more impact, posting or commenting on other people's posts?
So posting yourself is good, of course, but making, I'll say, intelligent comments and intentional comments on other people's stuff gets you in front of another audience. And so you'll see me do a lot of that because I feel like, you're getting the same people in your world. And so if it's somebody who's commenting and other people who have commented on their post don't know me, they're going to say, "Wow, that was amazing. I'm going to look her up. I'm going to try to find out more about her." So definitely do a mix of both. If you want to post a couple times a week, I would say don't go crazy, right? The world is, you don't need 7 days a week of posting for any stretch of the imagination. 2 or 3 days is fine. But if you go out and make comments on other people's posts that are really intentional, strategic, thoughtful, and value added, it will make a difference and it will get you in front of more people. And I've been, experimenting with this as the algorithms change all the time because it does help you get in front of more people.
Okay, and Jean asks, what are your thoughts on consistency across material when we've been across several verticals?
So if there's something that's a thread that goes through all of them, if you can leverage that, great. If not, you can say, I have experience in multiple verticals or multiple industries, and what I found is, so you can try to, build a thread through them or talk about it from a leadership perspective or what experiences or skills that you had that you were able to translate from one to another. I think that's a missed opportunity that a lot of people have where they think, I only know this and I can't possibly do this because I don't have anything that, would say that I could do that. Sure, you do. You have a ton of experiences and things that you've done. Me being in IT and sales and supply chain tells anybody that they can put me in pretty much any function, maybe other than finance. I don't know that that would be great there, but any of those functions, and I can figure out how to navigate. I can figure out how to deliver. I can figure out how to lead. So we have to trust ourselves a bit more and recognize the things that we have and not dismiss them and devalue them just because they came easy for us. Recognize those things are really great things that you can take advantage of in any role.
And there have been some questions about the documents. We have a whole bunch of resources that Sue has given us that we'll be sending out. And with that, it's the networking brief, the brand visibility plan, and then some other things. The presentation that she's put together. So we'll send I know it's great. So thank you, Sue,
You're
so
welcome.
so much. And so this is really informative. And visibility is one of those things that everyone wants. And next week, okay, so great information. And next week, we'll be hearing from Ganesh Aryer, and who will be sharing LinkedIn visibility and digital presence. And Ganesh, as many of you know, is one of our alumni. And Ganesh, it's good to see you. So you want to give people a little taste of what they can expect?
Yeah, I was listening to Sue's presentation. The timing is perfect, but because all about visibility, authenticity, your voice heard. So next week my presentation will be around that, how to leverage LinkedIn to be the thought leader, to be that unique, authentic leader, right? Where people find you, people discover you. So I think timing is fine, and I think it's a great idea.
The timing is great, and visibility, it's all, and that's what I'm telling people. Everyone who comes through boot camp, everyone that I have a conversation with, it's what I'm saying. It's all about visibility.
And also,
And there have
Christy,
been,
also I'm going to bring in the 2026 LinkedIn Algorithm Insights report. So
Mm.
it's also
yeah,
evidence-based, data-driven, evidence-based, based upon 1.5. So the latest report came out last month. So I have those uh, key extracts which will be helpful for the executives.
right. And next week, we're expanding the discussion to an hour and a half so that we can fit as much of Ganesh's material in as possible.
Right.
Sue, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for
Ganesh,
having me,
we're
everybody.
excited. We're excited about next week. And Sue, we'd love to have you back. And to all of you, enjoy the weekend, stay safe, and looking forward to seeing you next week when we're with Ganesh. And so, bye, everyone. Enjoy the last few days of May. We're heading into June.